Thank you for the weekly Dhamma talk, as well as the retreat for the Easter, as well as the year-end retreats. This evening, I have a question regarding Silabbata Paramasa. Sometimes we hear that the word Silabbata is translated as rites and rituals. There are also some teachers who translate as habits and practices. There are also some teachers who say this is just Silabbata, okay, keeping the Sila and a kind of routine continuously. And also often we hear Silabbata Paramasa is about wrong grasping or misapprehension. So my question comes in two parts. The first part is that, is it okay if, since we are not sure, to combine all these different descriptions to practice accordingly, in the sense that, for example, earlier, Wang Po mentioned that do not attach to amulets or have a new car and then believing that the blessing is everything that is going to bring us safety. The second question is that, let's say a person who is practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, in a way is a kind of practices for within the path. There's also Sila and so on. So before enlightenment or attaining the goal, is it okay to attach to this Noble Eightfold Path, and it is not a kind of wrong attachment or wrong grasping, because we still need this Noble Eightfold Path in order to continue and progress in our practice. But we need to be aware that after some time, we need to let go of this. Thank you, Lampo.
Well, maybe just quickly to answer the second question first. You're probably aware that Buddha compared the Eightfold Path to like a raft or a boat that takes us across the ocean of samsara, the suffering of life, to Nibbana. But when you reach the far shore, you don't need to use the boat or the raft anymore. You just leave it there, and then you walk off the raft onto the shore, and you've arrived at your destination. You don't have to carry the raft around with you. So yeah, in the beginning, you need the Eightfold Path. You even use the concept of a self. You know, I am a person practicing the Eightfold Path, practicing dana, sila, bhavana. I'm meditating. You know, these are conventions, but you're developing the awareness that it is a skillful convention that you're using, but attachment always implies blindly grasping and not understanding how to use the convention well for its for the goal, which is one of ultimately of letting go and giving up all attachment. So you have to keep investigating it. So you're developing the path and holding on to the path. You attach to Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, the Eightfold Path in the beginning, of course, but you're practicing for non-attachment. So you have to keep investigating where attachment comes up. So it can even come up in our attachment to study, knowledge, views and opinions even about the practice. As I was saying earlier, we can attach to our precepts and think, oh, I'm keeping my precepts, it's good enough. Or we may look down on other people and have a conceit, I keep precepts, I meditate, you don't, they don't. This is part of our ongoing investigation, is to see where our wrong views and attachments are coming up in the practice. But it doesn't mean to say, give up everything. It means as you're practicing, you keep investigating, questioning, looking and learning from your experience. And that has to be that's a good habit you get into, because it's not something you just do at the beginning and then at some point everything drops away and you're just sort of gliding on your raft to Nibbana. You're reflecting on your wrong views, wrong thinking, your conceit, your attachment from start right to the very finish of the practice. So you have to remember, say an anagami is somebody who's very advanced. There's very few anagamis in the world. It's someone who's very advanced in their practice. They're called a non-returner because they've let go of all attachment to the body, identification with this body. So they have no more lust, no more anger. Their defilement, mental defilements are very subtle. Attachment to the bliss of jhana, the formless jhana, the immaterial jhana, the subtle conceit, the subtle restlessness of mind associated with the practice, and then ultimately avijja, the ignorance. These are very subtle attachments, but they're still attachments. So even an anagami might have the thought, I'm an arahant. It's possible. They can still have that much delusion, and they may need a teacher to help them out, or they may have to investigate for themselves. So at the very highest levels of attainment and very close to enlightenment, there's still the opportunity to attach to aspects of the path, to wrong views. They may be very subtle and they don't have serious consequences, but they're still there, it can be there. So you get in the habit. This is why Ajahn Chah used this phrase, it's not certain, it's not sure. And he said you can use that from day one of your practice. When you first encounter Buddhism, learn to practice dana, keep precepts, meditate, right through to the last day of your practice before enlightenment. It's not sure. And he said anything you've attained, it's not sure. If you think you've attained some samadhi, it's not sure. If you think you've attained you're a stream winner, or you're an anagami, or enlightened, it's not sure. You've had some deep insight. Maybe it is. Maybe it's deep, liberating insight, but it's not sure. So if you use this reflection, it's not sure, it helps to break through a lot of attachments, wrong views, misunderstanding in our practice. And it just makes you a little bit cautious rather than grasping. You say, oh, I'll grasp, I'll hold on maybe. I mean, we do hold on in the course of the practice, but it's not sure. Maybe this is not it, and maybe later I'll let go. You're ready for that. So use this reflection on uncertainty to help you with anywhere in your practice that you're suspicious there may be an attachment lingering. You keep questioning and looking. As far as the first part of your question, well, it's sort of linked. Sila Patiparamasa, you're right. There are many ways people describe it. External attachment to external practices, rites and rituals. Very closely linked to the other two fetters that the stream winner abandons. So self-view and then doubt, skeptical doubt. And Sila Patiparamasa, it's a wrong view, a wrong understanding and a wrong view in regards to the practices that you do. So you may just assume by doing one thing, and as you say, you may just do it habitually in a perfunctory way, but you're assuming this will automatically purify your mind of greed, anger, and delusion. But it's not a guarantee. Keeping the 5 precepts is a necessary part of the practice. It's a good thing. It's a great gift to the world. But you may still have greed, anger, and delusion in your heart as you're keeping the 5 precepts. So if you have a wrong grasping of the understanding of keeping the 5 precepts, even that can become an attachment and can give rise to these subtle defilements. Conceit, self-view can form around your precepts. As I was saying earlier, sometimes you find Buddhists keeping the 5 precepts very sincerely and very diligently, but then they're full of anger for other people who don't. And then these people who don't keep the precepts start looking at the Buddhist who keeps the precepts and say, why are they always so angry? I thought Buddhism was teaching us to let go of anger. And, if they're keeping the precepts but they're angry, what's the point? So it actually becomes a bad advert for Buddhism. And you get that in monasteries and retreat centers, don't you? You know, somebody is trying very hard, they're disciplined, they're careful what they say, what they do, but they're not going deeper than that. They're not recognizing the deeper attachment, the conceit or the self-view forming around the keeping of precepts or the discipline in the meditation technique. And they're looking at everyone else with a lot of aversion. And maybe other people can see it, and those other people may not be practicing, but they can still see it. But the person themselves can't. And that's one way sometimes Silapata Paramasa is exposed, is that it leads you to have problems with other people, or other people can see through you or recognize your defilements before you do sometimes. And it's just, Ajahn Chah used to say, it's like fumbling around in the dark. You're kind of blind, or you're in the dark towards the practices that you do. You don't use them, you don't utilize them completely for their proper purpose, which is to help you abandon greed, anger, and delusion. You're fumbling around, so you grasp at it, but you may be holding on not very tightly, or in the wrong way, or just not very aware of how you're using a certain practice. It could be, we say rites and rituals, it could be practices of different kinds of samadhi techniques, vipassana techniques, precepts. Certain practices we do, we just assume that automatically will purify the mind, bring us to enlightenment, whatever. And then we go along, but without developing deeper insight.
Thank you, Long Po.
Thank you, Long Po. There's a typewritten question here, and it is, I read it out. When radiating metta, there is a tendency for expectations, even if it's noble. Should it be unconditional?
Well, that's your goal. But of course, every aspect of the practice, our attachments, clinging, wrong views can slip in. So it's something you have to keep looking at and reminding yourself to review and be more aware of the attitude you have, say, as you practice loving kindness for yourself, for others, particularly because it will bring you some pleasure. It's enjoyable. It brings good feeling when you're kind to yourself, to others. When you have that mood, that thought in your mind, it brings pleasure. And that's often where the subtle attachment forms, is, I've got metta for others, we enjoy it, we like it. And then if something comes along that disturbs that or takes it away, and then we feel disappointed or unhappy in one way or another. So that could be associated with, I have metta for you and I'm being kind to you, and then that person is totally ungrateful and unappreciative, and they don't respond in the way we're hoping them to respond. We hope they will respond, and then that pleasure we were getting from metta is obstructed, isn't it? We go, oh, why did I do that? May give rise to doubt, may give rise to even aversion or disappointment. Our pleasure is gone. And when the pleasure is gone, that's where the suffering comes in, because we weren't mindful enough, we weren't recognizing a subtle attachment forming. So, you practice metta because it's good for us, good for them, but watch out for this subtle clinging to the feeling of pleasure, what we say self-identity view, sakkaya-ditthi, can still form around wholesome, skillful states of mind. And when there'll be certain situations that expose that, won't they? So somebody is not grateful, not appreciative, somebody's critical, you're being kind and then they're being critical and you get upset. Sometimes it's just the tiredness and we get burnt out, don't we? We try so hard to be kind, and we are being kind, but we're trying so hard that we're forgetting ourselves in the equation, and maybe we're giving all our energy to other people with metta, to the point where we're so tired that we just can't go on. You're physically tired, mentally tired, and our metta kind of grinds to a halt. So we also have to have metta for ourselves. That's another part of it, isn't it? Balancing how you look after yourself and how you care for others. You have to know your limits, your energy level. You have to know when to rest, when to pause your metta, or to just change your metta. It's not you give up metta, but it's just how to practice it in different situations. You may have to adapt. So it's a skill like anything you're learning, and you're, as well as practicing it and developing it, you're also becoming more aware of the drawbacks or the dangers of attachment with the practice of metta. And but if you keep practicing, well, hopefully you'll become more aware, you'll understand them more, and then you can avoid the pitfalls.
Thank you, Lampo. Next question. How much time should we spend doing dana, and how much time do we spend meditating? It can be tempting to serve a lot to make merit, but we can end up running around all day and not do much meditation. Is it better to just go back to our huts and try to quieten the mind? Thank you.
It's a bit hard to generalize with this one. Depends who the person is, where they're at in their practice. There's different aspects of the practice, and at different times we develop certain things. So, particularly when we're new to the practice, we tend to do a lot of maybe more dana, acts of service, chanting, listening to the Dhamma, learning the Dhamma, reading. Because meditation maybe is not yet very easy for us. We sit down and it's hard work. The mind is all over the place. Mindfulness is not very strong. Insight is not yet very clear. So these other wholesome inputs can be quite useful to keep us going and to provide, to help. We're still training the mind, but we're training in right thought, as I've been discussing tonight. We might not yet have experienced any deep states of samadhi, so you just keep going on what level you are, especially in the beginning. But then maybe later on, you have more experience in your practice. Maybe there are times where you really, really feel it's appropriate just to do a retreat or have more quiet time, because your mindfulness is improving. As you meditate, you can see you're getting more from it. You're getting more understanding from your meditation. So then you'll devote more time to it. It also depends on your situation, doesn't it? If your life situation requires you to be responsible for other people and things, well, then you may have no choice, but sometimes you have to do other things, lead other people, help other people, support other people, and you have less time for your own personal meditation. But then there'll be other times in your life, or maybe you work towards getting the time in your life where you can devote a lot more time to meditation. And of course, that is one goal you might make, is say, to develop, get to a point where you can do a lot more formal sitting, walking meditation. All your other duties are done, your responsibilities you can set aside, and then you really can put more effort into your meditation. And hopefully, if you're getting more from it, you're getting more peace, more understanding, and then that spurs you on, motivates you to devote even more time to it. And so there'll be times in your life maybe when you just want to meditate, and that may be correct. If you're ready for it and your mind is in that mode, why not? Just devote lots of time to meditation. There may be other times when you just have no choice. There's other things you have to do, and that's okay. You'll still do some meditation, but maybe you have to do acts of service, kindness for other people. So it's a bit hard to be general in this, but obviously we're cultivating the Eightfold Path, and a big part of that is right effort, right mindfulness, right samadhi. So you should be looking at developing ways to finding ways to have more time and energy for that practice.
I'd like to now invite Susie. Susie, if you can hear me, can you please unmute yourself? Yes. Go ahead and ask the question.
Okay. Hello, Long Po. Good evening again. Susie here. Long Po, my question is, Long Po has been emphasizing a lot on walking meditation. So I've been in walking meditation, I have no problem with the Buddha or with the breathing. But when I'm trying to be mindful in my walking, whereby it's like in the mindfulness, in the walking, in the normal daily walking, I find that I get myself very confused or distracted, because it's like one step Buddha or breathing and Buddha. So if you don't mind, can you do a little bit more on that? Or can explain? I'm trying, it's like, I know it's very important to have the daily practice, but and then when I'm trying to go from place to place, because there are moments when I lose mindfulness, then I'll be like going faster, and then my mindfulness will be gone. Then I'm back to the normal pace. But when I'm mindful, I will slow down. Then, but it's like it's just difficult for me. But I know Long Po keep on emphasizing that one should be very mindful even with walking. In the meditation, yes, it's like we can slow down, we can watch the thoughts, you're very mindful about it. But when it comes to daily walking, I'm out. I need help. Thank you, Long Po.
Well, I think the brief or short answer is simply you haven't done it enough. What most people find is if they've done some retreats or spent time in monastery or retreat centers where they're doing a regular mindful walking or walking meditation, over time, and that may be years or months and years, over time, it becomes more and more natural and normal to go into the mindfulness mode as they're walking, even when they're not doing formal meditation. So, when they go back to lay life and they're doing work and going shopping and doing their different things, as they walk from one place to another, they tend to be more mindful because they've done a lot of it, and they quite naturally go into that mode where they're mindful of the movement of the feet touching the ground. But of course, you still have to have clear comprehension. So that's this all-round awareness, all-round knowing. So, if you're walking somewhere for a purpose, you know why you're walking, where you're walking to. You still have to keep that aspect of clear comprehension as you're walking. But just going into the mode of being mindful of the posture, the movement of the feet, and you may even recite Buddha as you do it, of course, you can do that, it becomes much more natural simply because you've done it a lot. And you may even quite enjoy being mindful as you walk, even if you're in a busy place, walking along a street, going shopping, walking in a workplace, going here, going there. You find that you quite naturally want to be more mindful rather than you're lost in your thoughts, looking at your phone, looking around you all over the place. So it's about practice. It's about doing it a lot. As far as speed goes, you can walk quickly and still be mindful, or you can walk slowly and be mindful, or you can walk quickly and be unmindful, and you can walk slowly and be unmindful. It partly depends on your physical sort of your body, your own rhythms, natural rhythms. So some people walk faster, some slower. Partly it depends on the situation you're in. Sometimes we can walk slowly because we're not in a rush. There's no time limit on what we're doing, so we can enjoy a nice slow walk. But sometimes we have to walk fast because there's a pressure of time or some urgent need to get somewhere quite quickly, so you have to walk faster. But that's all right. You can learn to be mindful as you walk fast. And I've known many monks who do walking meditation, and some will walk quite fast and some will walk very slow and some will walk just at a normal pace. And there's no one answer here. You have to learn what suits you, but you also have to be a little bit adaptable depending on the situation. And sometimes you have to just accept you're going to have to walk fast, so you're going to have to walk in a busy place, crowded place, but you can still bring attention to the present moment, to your mind, to your body in the present moment in a crowded place. When Ajahn Chah went to England, people praised him for just being very adaptable to the different situations he encountered. He had to stand on a train or a bus or walk through a crowded street. People weren't being, respectful. Like in Thailand, you walk along the road as a monk, people tend to, give you space and they show respect and everyone knows who you are. But in the West, they don't. But Ajahn Chah was very mindful as he walked, and he could adapt to the different places that he was walking, the different situations he was in, because he was naturally very mindful because he'd done it a lot. So really, we just need to practice more, and then it will flow on into our daily life. And, you can find situations where you can do a bit of mindful walking, maybe getting exercise, walking around the streets or going to a park or something. And that can help as well. You introduce mindful walking into your daily routine, even if it's only for a short period of time. And you'll naturally become more and more mindful as you walk. And you can see it's quite useful to be mindful as you walk, because a large part of the day we're standing up and walking, aren't we? So it will improve your practice no end if you try and focus on being mindful as you walk from place to place. And certainly don't be walking and texting and looking at your phone if you can, because that's one of the things that, gets people flustered and confused and not very mindful quite often. So be careful of that. But just do it a lot, and this will help. I do the practice of walking meditation a lot.
Sadhu Lompo. I think that's all the time that we have this evening. We shall now take leave from Lompo by paying respects to him. Thank you so much, Lompo, and we'll see you again next time.